Mama, is $40 a lot?
To Jaylen, it was $40. To Denise, it was everything holding them up.
Count it again.
His son wasn't just stealing from him, he was making Walter doubt his own mind. One signature was all Curtis needed to bury the store his father built.
Before this story begins, remember one thing. Denise Carter didn't lose $40. She found the first crack in a lie that almost destroyed family store.
Denise Carter paid the $40 because she needed the job. Curtis Doyle knew she needed it. That was the whole point. What Denise didn't know yet, what she'd start figuring out before the week was over, was that $40 was the smallest number Curtis Doyle had lied about. It started on a Tuesday morning.
Count it again.
The register drawer was $40 short, and Curtis wasn't keeping his voice down about it. 8:15, 3 customers in the aisles, pretending not to listen. Denise counted it again. Same answer as the first 2 times.
Drawer says 460. Tape says 500.
So where's the 40, Denise?
She kept her hands flat on the counter.
I don't know. I opened at 7. The drawer was already counted when I got here.
Counted by who?
Whoever closed last night. That was you, Curtis.
Something moved behind his eyes. Then he leaned in close, voice dropping just for her.
Careful. You've been here, what, 8 months? A man gives you a job when nobody else would touch that resume, and this is where we are.
Then he straightened up and said it loud enough for the whole store.
Look, everybody makes mistakes. Just own it and we move on.
Over by the canned goods, a woman with a basket had gone completely still. Denise had a speech in her chest. 8 months of speeches back there. She swallowed this one, too. Rent was due on the 28th. Jaylen needed shoes before the cold came. A single mother with one job does not win arguments with the boss's son. She knew that math cold. She'd always been good at math. Once upon a time, that had been the whole problem.
I'll take it out of my check.
Curtis smiled like she'd finally said something smart.
There we go. See how easy that was?
He straightened the pen cup on the counter. It didn't need straightening, and walked to the back office. A minute later, the woman with the basket came up to the register. Older lady, church hat on a Tuesday. Miss Erlene. Cream of chicken soup and a lottery ticket. Every week of her life.
He always talked to folks that way.
Just ringing you up, Miss Erlene.
My mama used to say, a man who howls about $40 is usually worried about a bigger number somewhere. You have a blessed day, baby.
Denise watched her go and decided not to think about that. Not yet. Doyle's Grocery had sat on the corner of Calder and 9th for 41 years. 2 recessions, a stockroom fire, a big chain store 6 blocks over that was supposed to kill it, and didn't. Half the neighborhood got their first job there. The floor by the deli counter was worn pale from 41 years of people standing in line. Every brick of it belonged to Walter Doyle. 74 years old, in the store at 6 every morning whether his knees liked it or not. He was down aisle 3 right now, holding a can of peaches and frowning at the shelf tag.
Denise, this says $2.19. We've been at $1.89 since spring.
Curtis reprinted the tags last week, Mr. Doyle.
Reprinted them? Why?
Said costs went up.
Walter stared at the can a long moment.
Cost.
He said, like the word didn't fit right anymore. He set the peaches back, label facing out. 41 years of habit, and came up to the counter. His hands weren't what they used to be. Denise had noticed him struggling lately. Jar lids, register tape, names once or twice.
How's that boy of yours? Jaylen.
Jaylen, he's good. Got a math test Friday he swears he's gonna fail.
Walter laughed, and the laugh was still big, whatever else was going soft.
That's negotiating. My Ruthie did the same thing with dinner. It's probably ruined. Then sets down the best thing you ever ate. When you take lunch, take it off the deli. Don't let Curtis see you paying. Man counts pennies like they're the last ones ever made.
He said it fond. He said everything about Curtis that way. He shuffled toward the back, and the morning went on. Here's what nobody at Doyle's knew, because Denise had spent 3 years making sure they didn't. Before the deli counter, before the gap in her resume that made hiring managers' faces close like doors, Denise Carter had kept books. 9 years of them. Payroll, inventory, quarterly taxes. A whole business with her married name over the entrance. She could read a register tape the way other people read a headline, and a drawer coming up short the morning after the boss's son closes a loan, in a store where prices keep climbing and the owner can't say why. She rang up a loaf of bread for a man in work boots, smiled, said have a good one. $40 is just $40, she told herself. It worked for about 4 days. Saturdays, Jaylen came to the store with her. Sitters cost money, and Walter had said months ago that a boy doing homework where his mama could see him wasn't a crime in his store. So Jaylen had his milk crate behind the deli counter and his math workbook, and he kept his head down. And he heard everything. Denise kept forgetting that part. He didn't look up from the workbook when he asked whether $40 was a lot. Her hands stopped on the slicer.
Where'd that come from?
He'd heard her tell Auntie Rhonda on the phone that she had to cover $40. Then she'd done the quiet voice. He erased something, blew the crumbs off the page. He worked it out loud for her, pencil moving. $40 was school lunch for a week, times 2. That was how a 10-year-old measured it.
Don't think about it at all. That's grown folks' business.
He offered, in that too serious way kids get, to skip the field trip. It was just the science museum, and he'd already been. Denise came around the counter and crouched to his level, hairnet and all.
Jaylen Carter, you're going on that trip. You hear me? Your job is that workbook. Money is my job.
He looked at her for a second. Then he told her, not mean, just a fact he'd noticed the way he noticed everything, that she didn't like her job. And he went back to his fractions. She stood there a beat longer than she needed to. Around 2, the deli case ran low on potato salad, and she went to the stockroom for the backup tubs. They weren't there. The shelf where the Delco Foods delivery always sat was holding maybe 9 cases. She had put 16 up there herself, off Thursday's truck. The deli hadn't moved 7 cases of anything in 2 days. She stood in the doorway, doing arithmetic nobody had asked her to do. The delivery clipboard hung on its nail by the loading door. She wasn't supposed to touch it. Receiving was handled now. Curtis's word, since summer. She touched it anyway. Thursday's invoice. Delco Foods. Clean printed numbers, 22 cases, received in full. And a signature at the bottom. That tidy little CD, like a logo. She had unloaded that truck herself. She'd counted the cases off the ramp without even deciding to. Old habit from a life she didn't bring up. Paid for 22. Received 16. 6 cases missing, from 1 supplier. And Curtis Doyle had signed for every one of them. Doyle's used 11 suppliers.
You lost, Denise?
Curtis was in the doorway. He had a way of showing up after the fact, like he'd been standing there a while.
Deli's out of potato salad.
She hung the clipboard back on its nail. Easy, unhurried. 9 years of keeping books for a man with a temper had taught her how to look uninterested.
Shelf short. Figured the truck shorted us.
The truck didn't short us. Receiving's handled.
Okay, then something walked off. I put out 16 Thursday. There's 9 now.
16. You counted? That's cute. Look, I know it feels like helping, but inventory's a system now. Spreadsheets, par levels. It's honestly a lot of math, no offense.
She let that sit on the floor where he dropped it.
None taken. So what do I tell customers wanting potato salad?
Tell them we're rebalancing stock.
He was already turning.
And Denise, stockroom's not really your area anymore. Front of house. That's where you shine.
The door swung shut. It's honestly a lot of math. She'd filed quarterly taxes in 3 states. She'd once caught a supplier double billing her ex-husband's shop. 2 years running, $11,000 they got back. He'd cashed the check and told his friends he had a good accountant. Had. Like a calculator he owned. She went back to the counter, sliced turkey, smiled at customers. That night, with Jaylen asleep in the next room, she sat at the kitchen table with a dollar store spiral notebook and wrote the date at the top of the first page. Then, from memory, because her memory for numbers had never failed her, whatever else had. Delco Foods, Thursday. Invoiced 22. Received 16. She looked at that line a long time. Her hand knew what came next. She didn't let it write, because she knew where notebooks like this went. The last one she'd filled had her own marriage in it, a business bleeding from the inside. And when she put it on the table, the lawyers smiled at her the way Curtis smiled. "Sweetheart, you're reading it wrong." She'd been sure. She lost the shop anyway. The house, most of the money, some of the sureness, too. That was the part she never said out loud. Jaylen coughed in the next room and settled. Rent was due the 28th. Field trip money, Tuesday. This job was what stood between her boy and nothing, and the man she'd be pointing at was the owner's son. She closed the notebook, sat there. Then she opened it back up, left it open on the table, and turned off the light. The notebook filled slow. Denise only wrote what she saw with her own 2 eyes. That was the rule. No guessing, no probably. She'd learned what probably cost. Tuesday, the Delco truck backed up to the ramp. She held the door and counted the cases coming off. 14. The invoice on the clipboard said 20. She counted again while the driver folded his paperwork. Slow this time, moving her lips. 14 came in, 20 on the paper. Curtis signed the sheet. She didn't say a word. She finished her shift, went home, put Jaylen to bed, and wrote it down at the kitchen table. Then nothing for 6 days. Then the wastebasket. Emptying the office trash was her job, every night. And one night, a payment stub was lying right on top, face up, like it didn't matter to anybody. Brightline Consulting, $1,850. She'd seen that name once before and thought nothing of it. Looked monthly. 8 months she'd worked in that store, and no consultant had ever walked through the door, unless consultants bought scratch-offs and left. She set the stub back exactly the way it was lying. Her hand didn't want to let go of it, and the shelf tags kept climbing. She was the one who swapped them out, so she knew. Canned goods, then dairy, then canned goods again, 3rd round since summer. Prices going up in a store where the freezer cases rattled, where the awning out front still hung crooked from the spring storm. Money coming in heavier at the register. Money going out someplace she couldn't see. And Walter walking the aisles telling folks times were tight. She'd watched this movie before, 2 years of it at her ex-husband's shop. And when she finally said out loud what the numbers were saying, nobody let her finish the sentence.
You counting again.
Denise blinked. She was at the register with the tape in her hand and hadn't even heard the bell.
Ma'am?
Your lips move when you do it. My sister did the same thing. 40 years counting the church money. I did claims before I retired. 26 years. Sat across from people lying to me about numbers all day. You get so you can smell it.
She counted her change out nickel by nickel, not hurrying.
That boy in the back got himself a new truck. You seen it? Parks it around the side so his daddy don't have to look at it. Peaches going up a quarter, and the boys driving something cost more than my house did.
Denise kept her face flat.
Ain't my business what he drives.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Erlene got halfway to the door. stopped, started to say something, then shook her head like it wasn't worth the breath.
My sister sat on something once. 2 whole years. It ate her up worse than saying it ever would have. But go on. Ain't my business either.
Then the bell, and she was gone. Walter forgot the safe combination on a Thursday. Denise found him in the back office at closing, standing in front of the old floor safe, hand on the dial, not moving.
Mr. Doyle?
I got it. It's Ruthie's birthday. It's always been Ruthie's birthday.
His hand stayed where it was. She could see it now, shaking just a little. He shifted so his body blocked it from her, and that was the part that hurt, that he thought he had to.
I know her birthday, Denise. June 9th. I know that. It's the dial goes some way first, and my hand won't do it.
Left to the first number, twice around. That's how them old Moslers start. My granddaddy had one.
His hand moved. The safe opened. Walter stood looking into it a second. Then he laughed, but small, the kind of laugh a man does so he won't do something else.
Don't get old. Everybody warns you about the knees. Nobody tells you the rest.
He straightened up, and when he looked at her, his eyes were clear.
Curtis says I've been making mistakes on the books. That's why he took 'em over. Says I paid a supplier twice back in the spring and never caught it. Thing is, I don't remember doing that, but I don't remember forgetting it either. You see the trap in that?
She saw it. If a man doubts his own head, he won't argue with a number his son puts in front of him. He'll just sign.
Do me a favor. Don't mention this to Curtis, the safe.
He tried to make it light.
He's got a file on me already, feels like. Don't need to add a page.
A file on his own father, said like a joke. It didn't land like one. She stood there with all of it pushing up against her teeth. He's right here. Say it. Say what, though? That she'd been keeping a notebook. That she'd been counting deliveries she'd been told to leave alone. Reading a clipboard that wasn't hers to touch. That his only child, his only family left since Ruthie, was working him like a mark. And her proof was a dollar store spiral and her own word. Her word had never once been enough for anybody. Sweetheart, you're reading it wrong. Up out of nowhere, same as always, in her ex-husband's voice, she pushed it back down.
You want me to write that combination down for you? Someplace private?
No.
Walter shut the safe.
If I can't hold on to Ruthie's birthday, I got bigger problems than money.
He patted her shoulder on his way past.
You're good people, Denise. My wife would have liked you. She didn't like hardly anybody, so take that how it's meant.
She listened to him shuffle up front, keys jingling, locking up his store one more night. His store, for now. She called Rhonda after Jaylen was down.
So quit.
Rhonda said before Denise even finished. That was Rhonda's answer to most things. Quit, leave, block his number.
It ain't about quitting. The old man's getting robbed, Rhonda, by his own son. Slow, on paper, where he can't see it.
And that's your business how?
He gave me a job when my resume had a 3-year hole in it. He asks about Jaylen by name.
Her voice caught. She stopped it.
He believes me when I tell him things. You know how long it's been since...
Rhonda didn't say anything. She knew how long.
Denise, last time you got into it over somebody's books, what'd that cost you?
Everything. I was there.
So?
Denise looked at the notebook on the kitchen table. 9 pages now.
So this time, I'm gonna be sure. This time, I ain't gonna be wrong.
Being right wasn't going to be enough. She'd already paid full price for that lesson. If she was ever going to open her mouth, she needed paper. The kind of paper a stranger could look at. Somebody who didn't know her, didn't owe her, had no reason on earth to take her word. The Delco driver's name was Otis. 30-some years on that route, he liked to say. Tuesday morning, she waited for him at the ramp with 2 coffees. She almost didn't. Stood inside by the receiving door a full minute first, telling herself coffee was just coffee.
They still got you unloading? Thought receiving was handled.
The way he said handled had a little something in it. Maybe. Or maybe she was hearing things everywhere now.
Deli's mine. Deli comes off your truck.
She handed him the cup.
Otis, let me ask you something. You don't have to answer.
He waited.
When you drop here, who signs your copy?
Curtis. Always Curtis now.
And your copy, it matches what actually comes off the truck?
My copy matches my truck to the case. 31 years. Never had a count come back on me.
He drank some coffee, looked at her, then out at the lot.
Why, somebody's count coming back different?
She didn't answer right away.
Might be. I don't know yet.
Otis said nothing while the lift gate came down. She figured that was the end of it. Then, kind of to his clipboard.
Driver copy goes back to my depot. Yellow sheet.
Beat.
They keep those 7 years. Case of store disputes something.
Beat.
Store of record can request their own delivery history anytime. Owner just has to ask.
The owner.
Owner just has to ask.
He handed her back the empty cup like it was hers to throw away.
Appreciate the coffee.
That was all he'd give her, and she understood. Man's got 31 years and a pension. So the proof existed, sitting in a depot somewhere. 7 years of yellow sheets. And the only person on this earth who could ask for them was a man who couldn't hold on to his dead wife's birthday. She went back inside and stood in the cooler longer than she needed to. Brightline Consulting took her lunch break at the library, then part of another one. First try, she typed Britline into the state registry and got nothing. Sat there a second, thinking maybe she'd remembered the stub wrong. Maybe she was remembering everything wrong. She hadn't. Brightline. There it was. Brightline Consulting, LLC. Registered 14 months ago. No website. No phone number. The address was a suite downtown that turned out to be a registered agent outfit. One office taking mail for a couple hundred companies. So, no office either. Nothing but a name that cashed $1,850 a month. Under organizer, it wasn't Curtis Doyle. She hadn't expected it to be, but her stomach still dropped when she read it, because for 1 second, the whole thing fell apart in her hands. Renata Voss. Denise had never heard of Renata Voss. She almost logged off. 11 minutes left on the computer, a bus to catch, and part of her was relieved. See, it's nothing. Some consultant you never met. Go back to work. But she wrote the name down anyway. Writing things down was free. Then, because 9 years of bookkeeping is a hard habit to kill, she ran the name against the other vendors she could remember out of the store's files. Took a few tries. Then a marketing firm came up. 3 years old. Renata Voss listed as an officer. Denise stared at the firm's name until it landed. That was the outfit that did Doyle's 40th anniversary flyers. She'd held that invoice with her own hands back when they had her straightening the office shelves. And Curtis was the one who'd hired them. Almost sure. Almost. But sit with it. A consulting company 14 months old. No phone, no office. Nobody's ever seen a consultant. Billing the store $1,850 a month. Run by a woman who, at minimum, had done business with Curtis before. It wasn't proof. She knew that. It could all have a boring explanation. She just couldn't think of one. The library printer was 15 cents a page. She made 2 copies of everything, which came to more than she wanted it to. She counted the coins out at the desk, thinking about the field trip money and the shoes Jaylen was about to outgrow. Paid anyway. Her hands were steadier after. Didn't make sense, but there it was. Curtis got to her that same week. Not the way she'd been bracing for. She was restocking the deli case when he came up front with a clipboard and that walk of his, the one that belonged in a bigger building.
Denise, Saturday. I need you to keep your kid home.
The slicer guard clicked under her hand.
Come again?
Nothing personal. We've got people walking the store Saturday, professional people, and a child on a milk crate behind the counter isn't the image we want. Health code, liability, whatever you want to call it.
Your daddy said Jaylen's welcome here. Said it in front of everybody.
My father says a lot of things.
Curtis moved his pen over the clipboard. Maybe he wrote something. Maybe he just liked how it looked.
He also thinks it's still 1988 and a store runs on being everybody's uncle, which is why the margins look the way they do.
He gave her the patient smile, the one he saved for her.
You've probably noticed we're in some trouble. Or maybe not, no reason you would. Point is, Saturday matters. Apron clean, case full, kid home. We clear?
She should have stopped there. She knew it while she was doing it.
What kind of people walking through?
Something crossed his face. Surprise, maybe, that the deli had asked a second question. Gone fast.
The kind that don't concern the deli.
He said, and walked off toward the office. She stood there with her hand on the slicer guard and made herself breathe normal until he was gone. That night, after Jaylen's light was off, she sat at the kitchen table with the notebook and didn't write anything for a while. She'd been so sure at the library. Now it kept sliding around on her. Maybe Brightline was real and she just couldn't find it. Maybe the walkthrough was insurance people. Banks did walkthroughs. She wrote, Saturday, walkthrough. Professional people. Wouldn't say who. Under that, she started something about the prices. Stopped. Started again. Prices up since spring. Shelves thin. His choice, not the vendor's. $18.50 a month to a company that isn't anything. Then, smaller, because she wasn't sure she believed it yet. If you wanted the store looking good Saturday, you'd fix all that first. He's doing the opposite. She sat looking at that line. Next door, somebody's TV was going through the wall. A store that looks like it's dying on paper appraises low. A store that appraises low sells cheap. And if it sells cheap to somebody Curtis already knows, she didn't write that part. It was too far ahead of what she could put in anybody's hands. What she had, a yellow sheet at a depot only Walter could ask for, a name on a state website, and an old flyer invoice she was mostly sure about. Mostly. That word again. She closed the notebook. Rent was due in 6 days. The copies had cost her folding money she didn't have. And the boy asleep down the hall was the only thing she'd walked away with. The last time she said a total out loud to somebody who didn't want to hear it. Saturday was Saturday. 3 days. She turned the kitchen light off and stood there a minute in the dark before she went to bed.
By then, Denise understood something Curtis never expected. He wasn't scared because she was loud. He was scared because she was counting.
The store had been open 2 hours Saturday when they showed up. A little after 10, 2 men and a woman dressed too nice for grocery shopping. Denise figured them for reps at first. Vendors came through sometimes. But reps carry samples. These 3 carried a folder and their phones. They didn't buy anything. One of the men stood in the middle of aisle 4 talking square footage into his phone, and Miss Erlene had to reach around him for her soup. He didn't move, didn't even notice her. Denise stayed at the deli counter. 9 years doing books in the back of a shop, you learn how to watch without watching. The woman stopped at the deli case and looked in at the compressor.
This equipment original?
Cooler's been here longer than me, ma'am.
And you are?
Deli.
She said, and went back to slicing. Curtis walked them through the whole store. It wasn't the tour a man gives when he's proud of a place. No 41 years, no regulars. He took them to the freezer that rattled, the water stain by the stockroom, out front to look at the awning. At one point, the woman asked him something Denise couldn't hear, and he laughed, and the other two laughed, and they all went into the office. Walter wasn't in. Saturday mornings were physical therapy, the one thing he never missed, because he'd promised Ruthie he'd take care of himself, and he still kept promises to her picture. Denise thought about that. Curtis had picked the one morning his daddy was guaranteed to be gone. They left around 11:15. The woman stood on the sidewalk a second, looking up at the storefront before she got in the car. Walter came in at noon, moving careful but in a good mood, the way therapy always left him.
Denise, tell me something good.
Sold out the potato salad, Mr. Doyle.
Ha! See, that's...
He stopped. Denise didn't see it until he reached over by the register, next to the pen cup, and picked up a business card. The woman must have set it down while she was talking to Curtis. It had been sitting there over an hour, and Denise hadn't even noticed it herself. Walter read it, then read it again, holding it out a little further, like the distance would help.
Meridian Retail Partners, Acquisitions.
He turned it over. Nothing on the back.
Who was here, Denise?
3 people. Walked the whole store. Curtis showed him around.
Showed him what for?
She almost told him. The notebook was in her bag under the counter. 11 pages now, photocopies folded in the back. She had the first words in her mouth. "Mr. Doyle, I need you to sit down for a minute." The door chimed. Curtis, coming in from the lot with a sandwich bag from the place on the corner.
Pop, you're back early.
He saw the card in his father's hand. A pause. Half a second, maybe. Then,
Oh, that's the insurance thing. Appraisers came through. I told you premiums are up. I've been shopping the policy.
Card says Acquisitions.
They do everything. It's a big firm.
Curtis took the card out of his father's hand, gentle about it.
Pop, this is exactly the kind of stuff you asked me to handle. Remember the spring? You paid Delco twice?
I know what I did in the spring.
I know you do. I'm just saying that's why I've got it, so you don't have to worry about it.
Walter stood there. He looked at the card in Curtis's hand, then at the register, like he was trying to hold on to the question and couldn't quite.
Insurance. All right. All right, then.
He went back toward the office, slower than he'd come in. Curtis waited until the office door shut. Then he turned around. Denise was slicing turkey, eyes on the machine.
Anything else happen this morning?
Busy morning. Sold out the potato salad.
He looked at her a beat longer than he needed to.
Right.
Wednesday, somebody went through her bag. She knew because of the hair. She'd started laying one of her own hairs across the zipper the day after the walkthrough, something she'd picked up during the divorce, when her ex used to go through her things and swear he didn't. Wednesday evening, the hair wasn't there. The notebook wasn't in the bag. Hadn't been for a week. It was at home in the box with Jaylen's baby pictures, because that was the one box she'd never misplace. All he'd have found was a paperback, hand lotion, and a grocery list. But he'd looked. So something had gotten back to him. Otis, maybe. The library. One of her questions landing on the wrong ear. She sat with that at the kitchen table while Jaylen did homework. Didn't come up with an answer. Thursday morning, Curtis was standing by the time clock when she came in. "Denise, schedule change." He handed her a printout. "Cutting you to 3 days, front register only, slow season." 3 days was rent minus $120. There was no version of her budget where $120 came from somewhere else. "Deli's my station. Been my station since..." "Deli's being restructured." He clicked his pen a couple times. "Look, you're a fine employee, but the store's carrying costs it can't justify, and everybody's gonna have to adjust or move on, some sooner than others." He looked at her then, flat, nothing behind it. "You've got a kid and no cushion. I'd think hard about which one you are." He walked off before she could say anything. That was probably on purpose. She stood at the time clock with the printout. The old fear came up first, same as always. You can't afford to be right. She read the schedule again. 3 days. He thought he was squeezing her quiet. But 3 days meant she couldn't make rent whether she kept her mouth shut or not. He'd taken away the thing that was keeping her careful, and he didn't even know it. He cut your hours, Rhonda said flat over the phone. There it is. Now you quit, right? Tell me now's when you quit. Now's when I need you to watch Jaylen Friday night. Denise. One evening, Rhonda. A long breath on the line, the kind their mama used to take. What happens Friday night? Store closes at 9. Walter locks up himself on Fridays. Curtis leaves early, got his dinner thing. Denise was folding laundry as she talked, matching Jaylen's socks by feel. I'm gonna be there when the old man locks up, just him and me, and I'm gonna put it all on the counter. And if he don't believe you, if he picks his son, and Denise, they always pick their own. You got no job Monday, no reference, and a story nobody gonna check. You thought about that? Every night for 3 weeks. And? Denise matched the last 2 socks. You remember when the lawyers had me in that conference room, going through my ledgers like I wrote them in crayon? She kept her voice even because Jaylen was 10 feet away. It ain't even that they didn't believe me. It's that I sat there and let them talk me out of what I counted with my own hands. I apologized, Rhonda, for being right. The sock drawer closed. Walter can look at what I got and pick his son anyway. That's his right. But I ain't sitting on another notebook while somebody gets took. Rhonda was quiet a moment. Then, what time Friday? Thursday night, she put the folder together at the kitchen table. Otis had said it 2 weeks ago, and she hadn't stopped thinking about it. Store of record can request their own delivery history. Owner just gotta ask. Her word against Curtis's, she'd lose that. She'd lost it before. But Delco's yellow sheets against Curtis's clipboard, that wasn't her word at all. 3 parts, ordered for a stranger. What she saw. 11 pages of dates and counts, her own hand. What anybody could check. The registry printout, Bright Line Consulting, no office, no phone, and Renata Voss, 1 handshake from Curtis. The photocopied payment stub. And 1 sheet written plain. Call Delco Foods. Request delivery history, 12 months. Compare their yellow sheets to your invoices. Don't take my word, take theirs. That last page mattered most. She'd learned not to walk in holding the conclusion. Hand Walter a phone number instead. Let the proof come from somewhere nobody could say a deli clerk made it up. Jaylen padded in for water at 9:30 and stopped. Looked at the folder. The spread of pages. His mother's face. He asked if this was about the $40, the big number behind it. 10 years old, doing math nobody asked him to do. Come here. She pulled out the chair next to her. You can't say nothing about this at the store. But I ain't gonna lie to you either. Somebody's taken money from Mr. Doyle. I found it. Tomorrow I'm gonna tell him. He wanted to know if telling was going to cost them. She said it might. He asked why she was doing it anyway. 'Cause the last time I knew something like this and kept quiet to stay safe, it cost us anyway. Just slower. She squared the folder's edges. And 'cause Mr. Doyle asks about you by name. Ain't but 4 people on this earth do that. Jaylen nodded slow and got his water. At the doorway, he turned around and told her, for the record, he would have skipped the field trip. Go to bed, boy. But Friday didn't wait for 9 o'clock. Denise came in for her cut-down shift at noon, and the store was wrong before the bell over the door finished ringing. Miss Erlene stood by the lottery machine, not playing it. 2 of the stock boys were whispering by the dairy case, and the office door was open, which it never was, voices coming out of it. Curtis, smooth, patient. Pop, we've been over this, twice this week. The numbers don't care how you feel about them. Then Walter.
and it stopped Denise where she stood because he sounded small. I want to wait on it. That's all I'm asking. Wait till after the holidays. Let me think. You've been thinking. That's the problem. Every month you think the store loses money, and it comes out of what's left for you. The offer's on the table now. Meridian doesn't wait for sentimental. It's your mother's name on that. It was gonna be Doyle and Son. There is no and Son if there's nothing left to inherit but debt. Paper sliding on a desk. It's a letter of intent, Pop. It's not even final. It just says you're willing. One signature, and all this pressure you've been feeling, I take it off you. That's all I've ever been trying to do. Silence from the office. The long kind. Denise looked at the clock. 12:04. The folder was at home, in the box with the baby pictures, staged for 9 o'clock, for the quiet, for the plan. She untied her apron.
Denise knocked on the open office door with 2 knuckles, the kind of knock that isn't asking. Mr. Doyle, need you up front. Curtis didn't turn around. Not now, Denise. It's a delivery issue, needs the owner. I handle deliveries. We're in the middle of needs the owner, Denise said again. Past Curtis this time, to the old man behind the desk with a pen in his hand. It's Delco. They're asking for you by name. It was about to be true anyway. Surprised to find it there. Delco, that's the spring thing, the double payment. He set the pen down. Pop, whatever it is, I'll handle it in 10 minutes. Sign the man's asked for by name in his own store. He goes. Walter pushed himself up, knees complaining. He seemed almost relieved to have somewhere else to be. He shuffled past Denise, patting her arm out of habit, and went up front. That left Denise and Curtis in the office, 3 feet apart. There's no delivery issue, Curtis said. There's about to be. He looked at her a moment. For the first time in 8 months, she could tell he was taking her seriously. Whatever you think you know, he said, quiet. You're a part-time register clerk with a resume hole and a kid. Weigh that. Been weighing it 3 weeks. Scale broke this morning. Up front, she dialed Delco's depot from the store phone and put the receiver in Walter's hand before Curtis could cross the floor. Ask him for your delivery history, she said, low and fast. 12 months. Just ask what they got on file for Doyle's grocery. That's all. Denise, what in the world? Please, Mr. Doyle, one question, then I'll explain every bit of it. Walter put the phone to his ear and asked. The store went on around him. Miss Erlene had drifted down to the end of the counter, closer than soup required. Curtis stood 5 feet away with his arms folded. Denise gave him this much. He didn't grab the phone. She could see him getting his answer ready. Clerical errors, depot mistakes. We'll audit it properly, Pop. Walter listened, said, said, that don't. Say it again? Then he was quiet a long time. His hand came up slow and pressed flat on the counter. 16, he said into the phone. Your sheet says 16 cases, signed. And mine, he stopped. No, I got the invoice right here in my files saying 22. Paid. Another silence. Every week? How far back you... His voice didn't break. It just got smaller. 14 months. All right. Appreciate you, son. I'll call back Monday, official. He hung up. Nobody said anything. The cooler hummed. Somewhere in aisle 2, a customer asked if anybody worked here. Pop. Curtis kept his voice warm, reasonable. Depot records are a mess. Everybody knows that. One phone call isn't an audit. This is why I keep saying we need professionals on the books instead of a small tilt of his head toward Denise. This. Walter turned around. Denise had seen the old man cheerful, tired, foggy, scared. Never like this. 14 months, he said. The shorten starts 14 months back. You took over receiving when? Pop, when, Curtis? Spring of last year, but that's 14 months. Walter nodded slow, doing his own arithmetic on his own floor. And the double payment I made in the spring, the one I don't remember making, the one you showed me, the one that made me hand you everything. His voice dropped to almost nothing. Did I make that payment, son? Or did you need me to think I did? The bell over the front door rang. Nobody looked at it. Curtis's jaw worked once. Then he reached for the tool that had never failed him in that building. Pop, listen to yourself. You forget the safe combination. Last month you paid the ice vendor off the closed account. You're not in a position to trust your own version of things. That's not me being cruel. That's just where we are. He gestured toward the office. There's a letter on that desk that solves all of this. And the longer we stand out here... I forget plenty, Walter said. I know her name. I know her boy's name, too. He didn't raise his voice for it. He just let it sit. He turned to Denise. You knew. How long? Denise thought about 11 pages in a box with the baby pictures. A conference room 3 years ago where she'd apologized for being right. 3 weeks certain, she said. And there's more than the trucks, Mr. Doyle. It's wrote down, all of it, but not here. She glanced at Curtis. Tonight, at close, just you, like I planned. Walter held her eyes a moment, nodded once. Then he went back to the office, where the letter of intent sat on his desk with the pen beside it. He picked it up and tore it in half. 9 o'clock, he said. Store's closing on time tonight. Curtis left at 4. He didn't storm. That wasn't his way. He gathered his laptop and his good jacket, told the stock boys something about a dinner meeting, and paused at the register on his way out. Close enough that only Denise could hear. It doesn't change the balance sheet. All you did is make sure it goes down ugly instead of quiet. He pushed the door open. You didn't save him. The bell rang him out. Denise rang up a gallon of milk and 2 scratch-offs. Her hands were steady. She counted that. At 6, she called Rhonda. Bring Jaylen by the store at 9. I don't want him hearing this secondhand, and I don't want to do this twice. You sure? He's owed the answer either way. At 9, Walter locked the front door from the inside, turned the sign, and shut off every light except the one over the deli counter. 41 years of habit. That light stayed on for the cleaning. He sat on the customer side, on the stool Miss Erlene used. Denise stood behind the counter out of muscle memory. The folder lay between them on the cutting board. She walked him through it the way she'd built it. What she saw, the ramp counts, 11 pages in her own hand, dates down the margin. What anybody could check, Brightline, the registry printout, Renata Voss, the $1,850 a month for consultants nobody had ever seen walk that floor. And the last page, the phone numbers. Don't take my word, take theirs. Walter read every page, slow, one finger tracking the lines. He didn't skip, and he didn't flinch. When he finished, he sat back and looked at the dark store for a long time. The truck he's got parked around the side, he said finally. That's my peaches. That's Erlene's soup gone up 30 cents. He rubbed his face. Worst part, it ain't even the money. I know, Denise said. He had me thinking I was losing my... He stopped, started again, quieter. Ruthie passed in this store. Aisle 5, by the coffee. People said, sell it, Walter. You can't walk past that spot every day. I told him no. He looked at his hands. My boy watched me choose this place his whole childhood. Maybe that's my bill coming due. Maybe he figured the store was the only child I... No, sir. It came out flat, and it surprised them both. You ain't gonna do that. I did that for 3 years. Carried somebody else's stealing around like it was my fault for not loving him better. He made a choice. Grown, with a pen, 400 and some times by my count. She turned the folder to face him. You can grieve your son, Mr. Doyle, but quit billing yourself for him. Walter looked at her across the counter, and something in the old face eased. 9 years of books, he said. That's what's in these pages. Ain't no deli course teaches this. 9 years. Different name on the door. Different thief. That the hole in the resume? That's the hole. He nodded and asked nothing more, which was most of why she'd have walked through fire for him. Monday came in gray and busy. Delco's regional office pulled 14 months of yellow sheets by Wednesday. The lawyer, a careful woman named Okafor, who Ruthie's cousin swore by, spent one afternoon with Denise's folder and the bank statements and said this was very well documented. Brightline Consulting stopped existing the next week, dissolved by its organizer. Renata Voss didn't answer calls. That was fine, Okafor said. Dissolving a company doesn't dissolve 14 months of bank transfers. Curtis called his father twice that week. Walter didn't pick up. Then Thursday evening, 10 minutes before close, the bell rang, and Curtis walked in like a man arriving for a meeting he'd scheduled himself. Denise was at the register, cashing out the drawer. Walter was restocking the candy rack by the front, slow, one box at a time. "Pop, we need to talk before your lawyer makes this permanent." "Talking's free," Walter said, not turning around. "Talk." Curtis glanced at Denise. "She stays," Walter said. "She's my bookkeeper. Books is what you came about, ain't it?" "Okay." Curtis let out a breath. "Okay, Pop. No lawyers. Yes, the invoices, Brightline, all of it." His hands came up. "You want to know why? Because this store was going to eat both our lives. 41 years. It gave you bad knees and a dead wife in aisle 5, and you were going to hand me the same thing and call it inheritance. Meridian was real money. Enough for you to rest. Enough for me to live. But you'd never sign while the books looked healthy." He shrugged, tired. "So I made them look how they were going to look anyway. I sped it up. That's all." Walter set the last candy box down and turned around. "You had me doubting my own mind. The double payment. Did I ever make it?" A long pause. "No. You sat across my desk and watched me cry about my memory. Twice. Pop, you let me think I was losing Ruthie's birthday." His voice never rose. "I sped up the truth. What I hear is, you found the one thing an old man's more scared of than dying, and you used it on me 14 months to get a signature." He shook his head slow. "The money I could have forgave by Friday. I'd have give you the money. All you had to do was ask me, like I was a man." Curtis's mouth opened. Nothing came out. And to his credit, the only credit Denise ever gave him, he didn't fill the silence. "Okafor says there's a road where this stays a family matter," Walter went on. "Repayment plan. Paper signed. You resign anything with my store's name on it, and you go build whatever life it is you actually want. 'Cause it sure ain't this one." He picked up the flattened candy box and folded it once. "Or there's the other road. That one's got fraud on it. You got till Monday. Now it's closing time, and my bookkeeper's got a drawer to count." Curtis stood there a moment longer, looking at the store. The aisles, the worn tile, the one light over the deli. Then he left, and the bell rang, and that was the last time Curtis Doyle stood inside Doyle's grocery. He signed by Monday. Okafor's papers, the repayment schedule, all of it. The truck went back in November. Denise moved into the back office, her office, though it took her a month to say it that way, and started unburying the store. Slow work, She loved it. She caught the closed account checks, renegotiated the 2 vendor contracts Curtis had inflated, put the peaches back at $1.89, and Walter made her ring the first can up for Miss Erlene personally. "Well, look at you," Miss Erlene said, counting her nickels. "Witness after all. You knew the whole time, didn't you? Baby, I adjusted claims for 26 years. I just didn't know if you knew." Jaylen did his homework at the office desk on Saturdays, in the good chair. Some afternoons, Walter sat with him and they did the fractions together, the old man checking the boy's work, the boy checking his right back. Some Saturdays, Denise watched them through the office door for a minute, then went back to the ledger. Spring came, and with it, 2 pieces of paper. The first was a letter, forwarded twice before it found her, from a bank in the town where Denise used to live. Her ex-husband's old shop had gone through some last legal digestion, and an auditor had re-examined the books from her years there. 4 sentences of institutional language. One of them said, in effect, that her records had been accurate, and the discrepancies she'd flagged were now attributed elsewhere. 3 years too late to change anything. She read it twice at the office desk and waited to feel something big. Nothing came. She'd already taken that back herself, on a Friday night, under one light, with 11 pages in her own hand. She filed the letter and got back to the produce orders. The second piece of paper, Walter put in front of her on a Tuesday in April. Okafor sitting in as witness, Miss Erlene sitting in for no legal reason whatsoever. "Partnership stake," Walter said. "Small one to start. Grows every year you stay. Store needs a next chapter. Mine was going to be a stranger with a clipboard measuring my aisles. I'd rather it be you." "Mr. Doyle, I can't." "You can. You just ain't used to it." He slid the pen across. Ruthie's rule was, when somebody offers you what you earned, you say 2 words and sign. The words ain't, "I can't." Denise looked at the paper, at the old man, at Miss Erlene's eyebrows over her glasses. "Thank you," she said, and signed her name, her own name, on a line, in a book, in the store on the corner of Calder and 9th. Curtis paid on schedule. That was the part people never believed, but Okafor's paper was tight. He was managing something regional, 2 states over. He didn't call it Christmas. Walter mailed him a card anyway, every year. "That's his to figure out now," he said. The store did what a 41-year-old store does when you stop draining it. It steadied. Slow. New compressor by summer. The awning finally fixed in June. Walter stood across the street for 10 minutes looking at it. Foot traffic held, because the chain store 6 blocks over still didn't know anybody's name, and Doyle's knew everybody's. On the last Saturday in June, Jaylen slid his report card across the deli counter face down. The drama of it entirely his mother's fault, genetically. She turned it over. Math, the highest mark they gave. He kept a straight face about as long as a 10-year-old can, 4 seconds. And from the office came Walter's big laugh, the whole thing undamaged. That evening, Denise closed out the week's books. A real ledger, cloth-bound. She'd never fully trusted screens. She totaled the columns and drew the double line under the balance, the way her hands had done 10,000 times through 2 lives. Nobody was ever going to hand her the sureness back. Not the lawyers, not a letter from a bank. It came back the way it left, 1 entry at a time, in her own hand. $40 was never just $40.
$40 was never just $40. Somewhere out there, someone is still keeping count, quietly, waiting for the day the truth finally adds up.